Hi everyone, Aiden here at Etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install this Pace Edwards JackRabbit Retractable hard tonneau cover on our 2024 Chevrolet Silverado 2500. When it comes to tonneau covers, you've got a lot of different options and it can be really overwhelming trying to decipher which one is going to be the best fit for your truck. Now for me, I always like to start by separating it into two categories, hard covers and soft covers. Soft covers are going to be a bit more inexpensive, but they lack security because anyone can come up and just cut through that material with a knife to get inside. Whereas a hard cover like this is going to be constructed of metal or some sort of hard material that can't be cut through. Obviously nothing's thief-proof, but this is going to be a huge improvement to security, especially this option from Pace Edwards, which is constructed of a series of metal slats that all interlock together, giving you probably some of the best security you can get. An additional layer of security that the JackRabbit has is a lock. The mechanism to open the cover is located up top, so that's why they've got the lock. Some covers will rely on your locking tailgate and have the locking mechanism inside the bed, but I like this because it's easy to see and access, and then we don't have to open the tailgate to operate this. We just have to twist that, and we can push this into the canister up front. And here we can see the benefit of a canister style tonneau cover. Everything retracts into the canister up front, so nothing extends up above our bed rails, leaving our back window completely clear, compared to something like a trifold cover, where when that's fully open, it's going to be straight up and down, blocking your back window. Or even a roll-up tonneau cover, where that roll will sit on top of your bed rails and at least partially obstruct the back glass. So this is going to be the best option for visibility. The trade-off for that is that it is going to extend down into your bed because that cover has to go somewhere. So there will be some sacrificed space in here. The good thing is underneath it, there is going to be some space. So if you needed to slide in some lumber, some 2x4s, there's space underneath the canister for it to go. But that small space up top will be obstructed by the canister. Underneath the canister, you're going to have drain tubes. So any water that collects in here due to rain is going to be draining out through those drain tubes. We will have to drill some holes in our bed or enlarge some existing ones to route those drain tubes out. So you can choose to do that however you like. In this installation, we did choose to enlarge some pre-existing holes that were already enlarged for something else. And that worked a treat to run these out and make sure that there's no low spots in the drain tubes. And the benefit to this pull cord here is that we can operate this from outside the bed. Now I'm just going to operate it from right here, right now, so I can talk about one of the other benefits, which is the multiple locking points. So as we pull this out, you'll hear some clicks, locking it at certain intervals, allowing us to have the cover partially closed or open if we need to. Where that can come in really handy is, let's say we've got a load of lumber that sticks out past our tailgate, but we still want the fuel economy benefits of having this cover closed. Well, we can close it most of the way and just have things extending out the back here. That's going to help with your fuel economy and reduce drag. Now, comparing this to some other options out there, let's say other options from Pace Edwards, like the Ultra Groove. Those ones don't stop. They just have a fully open or a fully closed state, so there's no intervals. For that reason, I like the JackRabbit a lot better. Comparing this to an option from Retrax, their retractable covers can be stopped at any point, no intervals. All you have to do is throw their handle to lock it and it stays in place where it is, which is nice for the ability to stop it anywhere, but I don't like Retrax's handle as much. Their covers, I don't feel like slide as smoothly as Pace Edwards does, so we're gonna get smoother action here, and the trade-off is that we just have set intervals at which the cover can be opened or closed, rather than anywhere we want. So for me, it's a fair trade-off. As far as weather resistance goes, no tonneau cover is weatherproof, but I think this one does a great job at sitting really flush to the bed rails and having lots of sealing around the edges. We've got this rubber seal at the tailgate, foam seals along the bulkhead and the sides, and it all makes great contact with the truck. I think you'll maybe get a little bit of water intrusion at the gaps in the corners of the tailgate. It's super minor, but that's just one area to watch for. But overall, I think they do an excellent job at keeping things watertight as long as you install it all properly. The other thing I like a lot about this is the low profile nature of it. If you kind of get down level with the bed rails, really the thing that sticks up the most is the top cover for our canister and the weather strip right here. The side rails are sitting almost perfectly flat with the bed rails, and the cover itself sits below those side rails. So everything's super low profile, you can barely tell it's there, and it looks like it belongs on the truck. It doesn't stick out one bit. Now, one thing specific to your 2500 that you might be wondering about is fifth wheel clearance. From the tallest point in the bed to the bottom edge of the cover here, it's going to be right at 20 inches. So as long as your fifth wheel sits below, I'd say 19 inches, just for the sake of safety and having a little extra clearance, 19 inches or shorter, then you should be able to close the cover on top of that fifth wheel hitch. And the cover is going to clamp onto the bed rails, as you can see here in the four corners. I won't lie, the installation does require a fair bit of precision in terms of how the side rails attach to the canister and with how some of the clamps attach to those side rails. But we're going to walk you through that process right now and see how it installs on the Silverado. Evangeline is actually going to start off with the install here, and I ended up taking over for her a little bit later since she had to leave, so I'll meet up with you later and we can check out the install now.
The very first thing you need to do when installing your tonneau cover is to check for all the parts of your tonneau cover, make sure you have everything in place, and to check for your drain hole locations. Here on the 2500, there's some factory drain holes that you can use, and if you want to, you can use a step bit to drill into those holes to make them at least 3/4 inches large. That's going to be the clearance you're going to need for the drain tube. But what I'm going to do is I have these parts here. They're designed to go into your drain tube and then into that factory hole, so you don't have to drill into that sheet metal to enlarge the hole. We have this available at Etrailer. We're gonna get the canister installed first. I'm gonna set this onto the tailgate so I can get into the truck bed and put it on. If you do have another person helping out, some people like to get the rails on first and then lift the entire system up and over the cab. I'm gonna install the rails later. Get this up and over. Then we're going to very gently set it down onto the packaging. I have my side first. Our canister is propped on a box so that it's lifted up above the truck bed so that you can see where our rails need to go. So on our rails, we do have this cutout. The cutout towards the end needs to fit into your tonneau cover. And then it also needs to slide into this notch near the cab. So see where the cutout is on the rail and see where that cutout is on the canister. So once you have that figured out, we're then going to feed our rail through our tonneau cover and get everything lined up. Have to pull the cover out a little bit just to get it really lined up in order to push it up against the end of the canister. Now both rails are on. Secure your rails with a bolt, and then you're going to have a lock washer and a split washer, and then your rail. So you're going to use a Phillips head screwdriver to tighten that down. Now I put some masking tape at where both of those rails are because I need to pull the canister out to open up this area to put down our foam and our shim. With everything pushed down and in place, and you have to double check if you have a spray bed liner that it actually is adhering. We're then going to get the canister, we're going to lift our rail up and over the foam. We're going to assemble our clamps so that they look like this. Now, there's two different types of clamps. There's going to be your shorter clamps and then your longer clamps. So I'll put this right up to the other one so you can see the difference between the short clamp and the long clamp. The long clamp needs to go near the canister, and then the short clamp needs to go closer to the tailgate.
And at this point in the install, I'm going to be taking over for Evangeline, who had to go to a dentist appointment today, and we're going to wrap up the rest of the install here. So whenever you get your clamps slid into the reliefs on the underside of your tonneau cover rails, you want to make sure that you slide the pivot arms in on the outside. That's going to be the piece that actually helps clamp onto the bed rail here, and tighten them down using the hand knob and the barrel on the back side to bind the two together. Now, as you're repeating the clamping process for all four corners, you might run into some issues on the cab side of the truck. That's what we had here, and myself personally have run into this issue with a number of Pace Edwards covers where you can get the clamp slid into the relief, but as you start to slide it forward into that track, it binds up. So you may have to resort to a little bit of persuasive force with something like a mallet. Now, I would recommend, rather than directly hitting the clamp with a mallet, having some sort of block or piece to kind of bind against it and then hit that. We actually used a screwdriver here to press into the top, right where it slides into the track, and hit the screwdriver. Basically what that did is helped the clamp slide in straight rather than hitting the bottom and kind of tweaking it, causing some damage to the metal. So just make sure you've got something to protect the clamp and the rail if you do have to resort to that. Otherwise, just try to lift up on the rail here and relieve some pressure where you can to help to get it to slide smoothly. But then you can repeat the whole same clamping process on the front here. Once everything's clamped, we can return to the tailgate end and install our kickstands. Now there's two places where this can go, right here in the underside or a little bit closer. And because of the large gap here, I'm gonna go for the closer slot and just slide this in. I'll do my best to keep my hands out of the way here, but we want the base of that to be making flat contact with the side wall of the truck. So right about there is looking pretty good for us. I might try to angle it up a little bit just to make sure that foot pad is flat and even. And once you've got that into a position you like, you can use this hand knob here to bind it in place. And on the other side of the kickstand, install a washer, lock washer, and a wing nut to make sure it doesn't just slide back out. And repeat that on the other side whenever you're done. Next, we'll be getting up close and personal, installing the canister end of the drain tubes. You'll notice two tabs right there on the side of the drain tube. And you may not be able to see it on the canister on camera here, but if you get your head under here, you'll see that there's two tabs or two notches on the side of the hole in the canister there. Now, don't line these up, actually go perpendicular to it, and as you push up and you push on that foam seal, you'll kind of hear some clicks, and when you give it a pull, it's not going to come back down because those tabs on the drain tube actually clicked into place and locked. If we needed to remove this, we could twist it and line it up with those tabs and pull down to release it. I'm just going to leave it where it is right now and repeat this on the other side, making sure that everything on the drain tube is always running downhill and we don't have any low spots. When we're attaching our top cover, there's a threaded hole right here that we can actually move around. I'm going to scoot that up just a little bit and set my top cover down on top of it, trying to line up the hole here with that threaded bit. Once I've got it where I want it, I can take one of my black screws, thread that down in, and tighten it with a Phillips head screwdriver. Now I've got that fully started. You can tell because I can't remove the cover now. I can slide this back and forth so that I get it nice and flush with my side rails and make sure that it's making good contact over my foam seal on the bulkhead. When I'm happy with where it is, I can fully tighten it down. And we'll just repeat that process on the passenger side. To cap things off, your kit's going to come with this lubricated wipe that we can apply to underneath the sweep seal on the side rails. So just go under that flap and go back and forth along the side rails on both sides just to add a little bit of extra protection to this part of the tonneau cover. And once that's applied on both sides, we'll test things out. And all we have to do now is test it out. Now, out of the box, your tonneau cover may not go the smoothest, And as we're pulling it, I'm feeling a little bit of binding right about there by our clamps. But I wouldn't say it's anything abnormal. A lot of these retracting covers, with how many moving parts they have and being a much more durable metal construction, I'd say it's fairly normal. The important thing I want to look for is to see how it retracts. And everything goes back really smoothly, all in one motion, and it doesn't bind up on the way back. So I'd say any stiffness that we're feeling right now is probably going to go away as this starts to get broken in. And a lot of manufacturers will recommend actually leaving the cover closed for the first 24 hours after installing, just to help things break in. And for us today, I think that's what we'll probably end up doing. We can also check for tailgate clearance. And that seal is making great contact with the tailgate, and it's not interfering with how that tailgate functions. I'm still able to close it just fine with no additional effort, and then we can just lock it up when we're done. And that'll do it for our look at an installation of the Pace Edwards JackRabbit Retractable Hard Tonneau cover on our 2024 Chevrolet Silverado 2500. Thanks for watching.